Good morning. How are you today? Well, it's good to be back on my road. I'm just comfortable, and I realize how much more isolated it is here in terms of people or cars. I rarely see either. And it's funny that when we do this walk and talk, that's when I seem to get them. Anyhow, what's new today? There are a couple of things that are favorable and unfavorable. One of the favorable things is that we had another justice go to Notre Dame and plead that he was a victim. That's Associate Justice Alito. And what he's saying is that the justices are not going to be intimidated by public comment. Well, that's pretty interesting, given the fact that he thought he had to comment on it. Suggests to me that he was intimidated. The cases, of course, he's talking about are those abortion cases in which both in Mississippi and Texas, the number of weeks within which a woman may, by those laws, have an abortion are 6 and 15 weeks, which is less than what is provided for Roe v. Wade. And so there was a motion to stay those laws while the court could consider them, especially since on their face they violate Roe v. Wade. And precedent should determine what happens in a successive case, whether it's constitutional or not. And I would say that both of those are unconstitutional. And I, among others, am one of the amicus signatories to a brief before the court on the Mississippi law. So, is there anything encouraging about that? There are a couple of things. One is that there's going to be a hearing in Texas today on the Texas bill seeking a stay that's brought by the Justice Department. It's good to hear they got up off their keister and decided to do something. They filed papers last week. Normally, I would say it's a no-brainer that it's going to go through. That is, there'll be a stay. Now, the thing about intimidating is a long time ago, I had a case in the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. There's a federal courthouse down there, and the judge did not like my client very much. And there were protests in the street, and there were big gatherings and so forth. And I was asked to speak, but I didn't appear because I thought it was inappropriate when I was in court the very next day to be waging a battle about the case outside the courtroom. I was uncomfortable with that. It goes back to my days as a prosecutor and so forth. You make your arguments in court for the most part. There are exceptions. And when I came into court the next day, the judge couldn't fault me, but the whole courtroom was filled with the same people who had been at the protest. And he said, I want you to know that these demonstrations are not going to intimidate me. Well, I thought that showed that they did. The judge was a federal district judge sitting from Pennsylvania in St. Thomas. And you might think that was a good place to do a tour of duty, but I'm not sure that judge thought so. In the end, we did well by the client. I don't think because of the intimidation. I think because we had some good arguments on our side. The judge kept poking at them, and I think it was like a week of hearings. Not a trial, hearings. The judge kept going after the motions I had, and even motions I dropped, he continued to do it. So that's a personal story telling me that when Judge Alito says, you're not intimidating me, it's working. Public protest matters. These people know that the value of their power as a court is diminished by the fact of the reaction of the people to miscarriages of justice, namely not issuing the stay. So we'll see what happens in Texas today, in Austin. I believe it's in the federal court in Austin. Now, we also have Kavanaugh, who ran a 3-mile race the other day, you know, the predator alcoholic, and he's looking at it. And apparently he's got COVID, but he's asymptomatic, and it's not clear where. And I don't celebrate anybody getting sick, but these hypocrites. Now, he did get double vaxxed, and he was supposedly tested as okay. So you have to be careful about where you lay fault. I don't know that he's a no-vaxxer since he's had the vaccine. Finally, of course, there's the Hill. And I don't normally say this, but I had this thing right from the start. This idea of the two bills was the thing that was just not going to work. That is to say, one bipartisan bill that doesn't have a way to pay for itself except with cryptocurrencies. And the other bill, which is the one the Democrats really wanted, which would pay for itself by the taxes on the rich, that is over $400,000 in special categories and so forth. And it's a bill that would, I think, it'd be sensational and historic rededication to the people of America at a time coming out of the pandemic and coming out of the Trump administration we need. But Manchin, he sits on a pile of rocks telling everybody, no, I'm not going to do it. And, you know, he has one rule that it can't be more than $1.5 trillion instead of $3.5 trillion. And he doesn't want the environmental concerns coming from a state that violates every environmental law possible. So it's a pretty sorry presentation by Manchin, but we also have Sinema, who's doing the same thing out of Arizona. So this is a problem. I'd still guess that, you know, there's a 97% chance the whole thing's going to fail. I support the position of the progressives, or liberals as they call themselves in the House, that say, look, unless you pass that bill in the Senate first, we're not signing on to this, quote, cooperative bipartisan bill. And I'm 100% with them. And I think Pelosi is as well. I'm not sure she's going to put on the floor anything that proves that, meaning if there's not an agreement, I don't think she's going to put it on the floor, but that's her call. I don't think she wants to be in a position of losing, but she may tell the president, Biden, something like, I'll put it out there because you're asking me, and you're my commander-in-chief as well, but it's going to lose. So we'll see how that goes. I predict a bad result. We didn't want a campaign issue, we wanted a real bill. So I'm out, it's beautiful, it's getting cooler, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.